Welcome, dreamers. Ready to relax and unwind? Get comfy and let our soft night tales take you to magical places. Enjoy.
Do you ever feel like you're lost, no matter where you are? Like there's something calling you, but you don't know what it is or where it's leading? Tonight, we follow a girl named Ariella into a forest older than any story you've heard. A forest where the trees don't just grow, they speak to those who listen closely. But what happens when the forest starts whispering your name? Welcome to Linwood. It's not like any forest you've ever seen. It's ancient and full of stories. It's a place where the wind carries more than just leaves, it carries secrets. Tonight, you'll meet Ariella, a young half-elf caught between two worlds, searching for something she's not sure how to name. It's a journey about finding peace where you least expect it, among the trees, in the quiet, where everything stops and you simply are. Take a deep breath and follow her as she walks deeper into Linwood, into herself. Ariella stood at the edge of Linwood, the tall, thick trees ahead of her towering like sentinels. The sun had just dipped behind the horizon, and the air was cool with the breath of evening. Her long, honey-colored hair, pulled into a loose braid, swayed in the wind, and her amber eyes flickered with uncertainty as she stared into the darkened woods. She wasn't sure why she was here, but she felt drawn to this place as though it had been waiting for her. Her simple green cloak blended with the mossy earth, and her worn boots crunched on the fallen leaves as she shifted her weight. Ariella wasn't like the others. Half human, half elf, she always felt like she was walking between worlds. No matter where she went, she didn't truly belong. The human villages never accepted her fully, and the elf enclave saw her as something incomplete. She didn't mind the loneliness so much anymore. Or, at least, she told herself that. But tonight, something felt different. Something was different. Ariella had been running for so long, running from places that didn't accept her, from people who didn't understand her. The forest had always called to her in dreams, and now, here she was. It felt like destiny, or maybe just a deep need to rest. She didn't know why, but she couldn't turn back. Not now. She needed to know why she was feeling the way she did, the emptiness in her chest that had been there for as long as she could remember. As her gaze shifted to the path ahead, the trees seemed to lean closer, almost as if beckoning her deeper into the forest. The air was thick with a scent of pine and damp earth, and there was a certain stillness that felt alive. Every step she took felt like the forest was reacting to her, whispers on the wind, shadows shifting at the corner of her eye. I have to go in, Ariella muttered to herself, her voice barely a whisper. She stepped forward, her heart racing with something between excitement and apprehension. As Ariella walked deeper into Linwood, she noticed how the world around her seemed to change with every step. The canopy of leaves above her grew denser, filtering the moonlight into soft beams that painted the forest floor in silver. Each step was cushioned by a thick carpet of moss and leaves, soft and cool beneath her boots. The wind, once playful and light, had now become heavier, laden with a quiet energy. There was no sound of birds. No rustling of small animals. It was as though the entire forest had stopped moving, holding its breath. Ariella paused for a moment, breathing deeply. The stillness felt strange. It wasn't unsettling, but it was certainly unfamiliar. She had spent her life surrounded by sounds, the chatter of villages, the calls of distant animals, the wind whistling through the trees. But here? The silence seemed almost too still. It made the faintest noises stand out, like the snap of a twig in the distance, or the soft rustling of leaves in the branches overhead. There was something else, too, a faint humming, like an ancient song just out of reach. It wasn't coming from any particular place. It seemed to fill the very air around her, vibrating through her chest, pulling her forward. Without realizing it, Ariella had strayed from the path. She had entered a part of the forest she didn't recognize, a place where the trees were older, their trunks thick and gnarled, their roots twisting up out of the earth like ancient serpents. The air here felt heavier, charged with something old and powerful. Ahead of her, something shimmered in the distance. At first, she thought it was just a trick of the light, But as she moved closer, she realized it was something far more real, an archway. An arch made of stone, covered in ivy, with ancient symbols carved into its surface. The symbols glowed faintly, as if pulsing with life. Ariella reached out a hand, drawn to the arch by something she couldn't explain. As her fingers brushed the cold stone, a sudden gust of wind swept through the clearing, causing the ivy to rustle and the glowing symbols to flicker. Her heart beat faster, and she took a cautious step through the arch, her senses on high alert. The moment she crossed through, the world around her seemed to shift. The air in this new part of Linwood was warmer, almost humid. The trees seemed to stretch higher, their leaves thick and dark. The stars above gleamed brighter, casting an ethereal glow over everything. The shadows around her seemed deeper, more pronounced, but there was something calming about it, something inviting. Ariella stood frozen for a moment, absorbing the change. This place was unlike anything she had ever seen. It wasn't just another part of the forest. It felt otherworldly. In the distance, she saw a figure standing beneath an enormous tree. The tree was unlike any other she'd seen, its bark a deep violet, its roots twisting in a way that made the tree look like it was reaching for the sky. The figure was cloaked in shadow, their robes blending into the darkness, but Ariella could feel their presence. It was calming, yet powerful. Without a word, the figure stepped forward. They were tall, taller than any human or elf she'd ever seen, their movements fluid and graceful. They lifted their head, and Ariella could see the faintest glow from beneath their hood, pale, silvery eyes that shone like twin moons. "You've come, Ariella," the figure said, their voice like wind through the leaves. "We've been waiting for you." Ariella swallowed, feeling a lump form in her throat. "Waiting for me? Why? I don't even know why I'm here." The figure nodded slowly, their gaze soft. "The forest knows when a heart is lost. And it knows when it's time to find its way back." "I don't understand," Ariella whispered, the weight of their words pressing heavily on her chest. "You've spent your life running, Ariella. Running from your past, from the parts of yourself you don't understand. But the forest will show you the way home. You've been looking for answers in places that can't give them to you. Only you can find them now." Ariella's heart pounded in her chest. She felt an overwhelming urge to cry, but there was no sadness in it. Just a release, a sense of letting go. "How do I stop running?" The figure stepped closer, their hand reaching out, not in a gesture of threat, but of invitation. "You've already taken the first step," they said softly. "Now, let the forest show you where you belong." For the first time in a long time, Ariella felt the ache in her heart soften. She wasn't sure how, but she knew she wasn't lost anymore. The path was before her, not in the forest, but inside herself. The figure stepped back, vanishing into the shadows, leaving Ariella standing beneath the great tree. The forest around her seemed to exhale, the deep silence returning, but now it was different. The quiet wasn't empty, it was full, brimming with possibilities. Ariella stood still for a long moment, breathing in the air, the faint hum of the forest vibrating through her. She realized something important, that this place wasn't just about where she was, it was about who she was. She didn't need to run anymore. She had found the peace she had been searching for, not in the world around her, but in herself. The forest had shown her that all along, she had been carrying everything she needed within her, she just had to stop long enough to hear it. With a deep breath, she began to walk again, this time with a calm certainty, the whispers of the forest now a gentle melody in her mind. And as she walked deeper into the night, she knew one thing for sure, she was no longer lost. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful journeys and bedtime tales. Thank you for being part of our community.